Hello and welcome to the Stratazine podcast. I'm Sister Nelson. Our topic today is personality and content creation. And joining me today is...
Hi, I'm Mary.
I'm Tessa.
I'm Presley.
I'm Lizzie.
I'm Shion.
Shion researched the latest in personality and writing. Could you introduce us to what you discovered?
Totally, yeah. So to get us started, I thought it would be really good to define what personality is first, and then I wanted to go into why it is super important in social media writing, especially copywriting.
According to the American Association of Psychology's, personality is described as the enduring configuration of characteristics and behavior that comprises an individual's unique adjustment to life, including major traits, interests, drives, values, self-concept, abilities, and emotional patterns. Basically, personality is the combination of the many unique aspects and experiences we have gone through as we grew up. But what does this mean for social media? I loved this quote from Forte Media. Often the digital world can feel impersonal and disconnected. Content with personality helps bridge that gap and instead creates a sense of connection between the creator and the audience. That sense of connection is one important way our content is going to stand out among the rest. Now, I specifically want to talk about personality and copywriting. As you can see, there are so many different types of copywriting, from writing for emails, websites, social media, and so much more. And so many of these forms of copywriting are going to be read without anyone verbally reading it. So without the inflection or facial expressions to accompany your words, personality is best shown through punctuation, capitalization, and word choice. Punctuation and capitalization help control the pace at which your audience reads and can help convey emotions such as excitement and urgency, while word choice conveys personality through the unique words and phrases that you use, and it creates images in your audience's mind that connect them to you. Now, implementing these changes of word choice, capitalization, and punctuation will make a huge difference, so play around with it and have fun. Now, my last piece of advice is imagine telling your best friend, "Have I got something to tell you?" Now, what comes next will be your most passionate voice. Talk to your audience like they're your best friend, and your personality is sure to shine through. For Stratazine, I'm Shion.
Awesome, yeah. I just love this advice that you should be talking to your audience like they're your best friend, because it just feels more personal. And I mean, how many of us have sometimes felt like we connected to a content creator like they were our best friend just because of how genuine and authentic they are. And with that, though, I have a question for you guys. What are things that have helped your personality shine in your content creation?
I'll take that one. I think for me personally, it's been experience. So just getting out there in front of the camera, because oftentimes we're so nervous in front of the camera and we'll just freeze up, right? And then we're like, well, why isn't my personality shining through? Well, oftentimes it's just getting comfortable in front of the camera. And as soon as that happens, your personality will automatically start to shine. For instance, I had a student that I mentored who really struggled to be in front of the camera. He wouldn't even want his voice on camera. And I'm like, just get out there and start trying and get that experience. He came back to me and he's like, I'm loving this. My personality is shining through. This is so much fun. Right? And so I think it's just feeling comfortable in front of the camera and getting out there and getting that experience, and your personality will start to shine.
Totally. I'll kind of go off of that. I think with that confidence that you build over having experience, there are a couple of random things about my personality that I kind of look for in other people's social media. I really love the disco ball emoji, and I really love the cowboy emoji as well. And for some reason, I do this thing where I'll do an exclamation point, or I'll have a word and then a space and an exclamation point, and I feel like that portrays a certain tone or a certain kind of excitement. And so I feel like with that experience, other people posting, I look for that specific tone, that specific energy, and it then gives me more confidence to share my personality through my own page.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Let's move to our next segment. Tessa, you've been looking into personality through facial expressions. Tell us more.
Yeah, of course. So facial expressions are one of the strongest nonverbal ways creators can show their personality, and they directly influence how audiences perceive authenticity, trust, and engagement on social media.
Have you ever clicked on a video just because of someone's face? Maybe they looked excited, surprised, or really genuine. That's actually a huge part of how personality comes across online. Research shows that we form impressions of people almost instantly based on facial expressions alone. In fact, studies from the National Library of Medicine have found that people who smile or show more expressive faces are seen as more trustworthy, likable, and even more competent. This matters a lot in social media. Your facial expression can determine whether someone stops scrolling, clicks your video, or keeps watching. One large study by Cornell University even found that positive facial expressions like smiling are linked to higher content sharing, meaning people are more likely to engage and pass content along. But it's not just about looking happy, it's about being authentic. People are surprisingly good at detecting fake expressions, and forced reactions can actually hurt credibility. There's also something called emotional mimicry. Research from neurosciencenews.com shows that when we see someone smiling, we naturally mirror that expression and begin to trust them more. That means creators don't just show emotion, they transfer it to their audience. So in content creation, your face isn't just part of the video, it is the message. It communicates your personality instantly, builds trust, and can make the difference between someone scrolling past or staying to watch. For Stratazine, I'm Tessa.
So my question for you guys, do you think people naturally exaggerate their facial expressions for social media, and should they?
I think it goes along with performative personality. So when someone does something just for show, not to actually be genuine or authentic and sincere, like you were talking about, Tessa. And when we do that, we lose trust with the audience, and we are building this barrier, and we're not building a real relationship because we're putting fake emotion out there. And so, like you said, the audience can really tell that. And I feel like if you're worried about not having the right facial expressions and you feel like you are faking it a little bit more with your content creation, it goes back to the point of personality. That if you're really truly passionate about something, what you're talking about, what you're trying to explain, or what you're exploring with your audience, your facial expression will naturally shine through, and it'll be very just there with your audience to build that trust.
Absolutely. Looking real just isn't enough anymore. Your voice, perspective, and consistency matters, right? Adam Mosery actually talks about how authenticity isn't about looking real. It's about being recognizable as you. So, right, we're talking copywriting, and then we're talking facial expressions, and ultimately we are the authentic content, right? When we can recognize ourselves and who we are, each of us brings something different to content creation, whether that's through a brand or through your own social. So thank you. This was such a fun discussion. Moving into our next segment, Presley, you've been looking into personality through voice.
Yeah, that comment actually leads right into what I was talking about.
Awesome.
Similar to facial expressions, there are like key indicators that kind of determine your voice within your brand. People speaking online are promoting either their own personality or brand, or they're the face of a company. So I looked into a couple of examples that express just that. On social media, your voice is one of the first signals of who you are. People form impressions based on how you sound, your pitch, your pace, your energy, and your emotional delivery. Voice inflection becomes a way to showcase your personality. Before you create anything, you have to know your audience, your message, and how you want to show up. Your voice is what connects those pieces. It's how people decide if you're relatable, trustworthy, funny, serious, or someone they even want to follow. Your voice is the consistent personality behind everything you post. Tone shifts depending on the situation, but in video, tone is shaped almost entirely by inflection and the way your voice rises, falls, speeds up, or slows down. These choices leave your audience with a feeling. Take a look at these two audios.
Arby's, we have the meats.
Golf or not, Geico could help you score some great savings on car insurance, maybe even hundreds of dollars.
Brands like Arby's and Geico prove how powerful a voice can be. Their voices are so consistent that you recognize them before you even see what the commercial is for. When your voice stays consistent, people trust what you stand for. The visual from Social BU states just that. They recognize your style, they understand your personality, and they connect with you more easily. Inflection becomes part of your brand and something that sets you apart from others. When your voice matches your message, your audience feels it, and that is what makes you memorable. For Stratazine, I'm Presley. Awesome. So looking into those examples, you can see that personality does require some consistency. I love specifically Arby's. You hear that and you're immediately like, okay, I know what commercial that is for. So I kind of had a question for y'all. What tone or inflections create a page that you want to follow or be a part of?
I can take this one. I know for me personally, I really love fun, lighthearted, really warm kind of tones. Specifically, like, I love following comedians. I love just like the entertainment, the enjoyment, and like I feel like comedians have to take and pull from like their authentic, genuine life experiences. And like with that, again, I love like authenticity. Like when someone is not afraid to be imperfect on social media. I really struggle sometimes watching content where, like, again, you can tell that someone is just not quite being authentic. Their like facial expressions are like, you know, showing that they're just kind of putting on a show. But there's one content creator that I've loved, and I think that she like deserves to be as big as she is because of how genuine she is. Her name's Elise Meyer. And she just tells like the most awkward life stories, like times where she went on like this worst first date ever, like times that she, you know, did things that were unconventional. And like in her storytelling, like she's still kind of, you know, awkward and shy about it a little bit, but she's also reminiscing on these times when she felt like she was being genuine and authentic to herself. And I love that. Like it makes you want to root for the person when you feel like their tone is like lighthearted and happy and like bringing life into their own life and yours.
No, totally. I've seen that with her. I follow her too. And I love the consistency within the awkwardness of the stories, because then it's like, oh my gosh, like if I'm slightly awkward, like that is like, I'll hear the way that she tells her stories and I'm immediately like, okay, I know that that's Elise. And so I love that that plays into all of her videos, but it's also relatable at the same time. So
absolutely. Those imperfections are proof of that authenticity, right? But also I relate to people. And so I want, right? I relate to those awkward moments. I have my own awkward moments. So it's fun to actually be like, oh, we're alike in our own way, right? So you have that connection. Bringing it back to one of the first comments you guys talked about, it being a best friend, right? And so I see my best friend's awkward moments, right? That's what makes you a better friend, is because it's somebody you can be genuine and real with. And so as you show that through social, even if it's just a clip on your phone, you feel like, oh, I'm a part of this. And we are better friends because of it. So yeah, we like seeing that. It's fun to be a part of.
Totally.
So thank you guys. Mary, you've been looking into how we can use these tools authentically. Tell us more.
Yeah, so all of these tools that we've talked about, voice, inflection, tone, words, facial expressions, they're all great to have access to, but if we don't use them authentically, like we've been talking about, we lose more than we gain with our audiences. But what do I mean by authentically? Let's watch the video to find out.
Like I was saying, authenticity is a big buzzword and has been for years. In 2023, Merriam-Webster named it the word of the year. But do we even know what it means? I surveyed around 30 peers to gauge their understanding of authenticity. These are the results. The most common word used to define authenticity is real, but there are a lot of other words mixed in there. Psychologists and researchers have defined authenticity as behaving in congruence with one's values, beliefs, motives, and personality dispositions. To compare, the definition of personality is a configuration of characteristics and behavior that compromises an individual's unique adjustment to life. Simply put, personality is your natural pattern, how you tend to think, feel, and act over time. Authenticity is about whether your behavior actually matches that inner pattern. So, how do we make sure that we are staying authentic to our personality while not stepping over into performative personality? There's an easy test. Ask yourself the question, am I saying this to be seen or because it needs to be said? When you stop mid-meltdown to find the right lighting and hit record, you have crossed the threshold from expressing emotion to capturing a moment for likes. For example, Pepsi did a commercial that featured Kylie Jenner in 2017, where they filmed a faux protest with people drinking Pepsi. The backlash was immediate and effective. People felt that Pepsi was minimizing real issues that they claimed to be passionate about, and, as one talk show put it, made a mockery of real suffering. Within 24 hours, the ad was taken down. On the flip side, Dove did a campaign that focused on women and self-worth. They created videos, did research, and shared this as a way of staying authentic to their value, real beauty over perfection. This resulted in an increase in trust from consumers because they saw that Dove didn't just talk the talk, they walked the walk. This can translate to your social media. When you show, not just tell who you are and what you stand for, you are being authentic to your personality, and your viewers will sense it too. Thank you. For Stratazine, I'm Mary.
I just think that that is such an interesting thing to think about, that we need to show, not just tell who we are. And I feel like these tools are great ways to do that in everything that we're doing with our content creation. My question for you guys, though, is when have you been in a situation where you knew the person wasn't being authentic, and how did that affect your opinion of them?
I think we've all been in situations where we've seen influencers or creators who are promoting things that don't really fit the brand of who they are. Like when something feels really sudden, or it feels pushy, or it just feels like they're overly excited about something that doesn't feel like they maybe should be. It feels forced or fake and really out of character. And for me personally, it really just immediately makes me question their authenticity. Once that trust is broken, it's really hard to fully believe anything else that they share on their content. It doesn't really make me dislike them as a person per se, but it does make me, it changes how I see their content, and it changes my trust in them. And it changes how I see their recommendations, other things they're promoting, and I really tend to stop watching them. It changes my long-term watch as a viewer. So I think that's why authenticity is so important, because audiences can tell when things feel off. Like in your video when Kylie Jenner was in the middle of a crowd drinking Pepsi, how you can immediately tell that didn't quite feel as true as it should have. But in social media, trust is everything. So once you lose that trust, it's really hard to get it back.
Yeah, I love that you talked about how your perspective shifts when you're looking at this person. I recently had to watch the Taylor Swift documentary for class, and I'm not a Swiftie. And so I watched it and I was like, okay, like I don't love her music. Like she's okay, but it's not like top of the list for me by any means. But after watching her documentary and seeing her backstory and see her tell her story, just the challenges and struggles that she's had to go through as a person. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's really, she just talks about how she's had to deal with like eating disorders, and how she had to go to court for a sexual assault case, like all of these things that happened to her in her career. It just gave me a lot more respect for her as a person. And again, like you were talking about, Tessa, totally shifted my perspective. And so now I listen to her music, and instead of just hearing the music that isn't my favorite, I see the person behind the music, and I'm like, okay, I can respect that she, while I may not like all of her songs, I can listen to it and be like, actually, she's a pretty incredible person and a really amazing business person that has done something that not a lot of people can do in the music industry. And so I think that, yeah, it's exactly like that. It just totally shifts your perspective on everything.
Yeah, to kind of add on to that, as another example, when I was younger, I used to love all these YouTubers. But then when I got older, I realized that their like thumbnails were almost like half truth of what their video was going to be. And so I loved it when I was little because it was very entertaining, right? But as I grew up, I started being like, wow, this is like kind of fake, and I'm not loving this because these YouTubers are not being super authentic, and also way over exaggerated with their personalities, to the point where it just felt like they were trying to get views and not actually connect with their viewers. And so I think there's a huge point to being authentic with your content and your personality.
That's awesome. You guys, I teach a brand strategy class, right? And that is the basis of what we build from. So as you tell your story of Taylor Swift or the content that you're engaging with, right? And we're trying to find this personality. We start, what's our mission? What's our vision? What's our values? We have to come up with our tone and our voice before we even get to discover what the identity looks like, right? When I say brand, it's actually the reputation of what our company will become or what we're going to be on social, right? A brand can be an influencer. It can be, an actual product. It can be just what you think of as an organization or a company, right? Brand is a overarching term of the communication that is received through the messages that are told. And so as we talk about all of this, right, as we talk about these personalities and these tones and these voices, it's just like us, right? It takes us time. It's what's on our heart. It's the things that we are authentic to ourselves. What's our personality, right? Those things that shape that personality. As you tell, about Taylor Swift, right? You say you're not a Swiftie. I mean, we all have a little bit of Swiftie in us, right? Like there's something there because she's been around for forever, right? We've listened to her music for years, and then she has such a story that relates because she's able to tell those stories. That's why people connect with her. Her lyrics aren't just have a good day. They're like, I went through something hard and I'm going to tell you this story. And ultimately, I'm reading a book right now, and one of my favorite things about it is it talks about how we, engage with people, how we talk as a brand and what that's like, and how we portray a message. Wow, there's my personality coming out. This is what I listen to, right? But it's like, it talks about we want to be the hero. Like, ultimately, I want to be that best friend, and I want to be that hero to that brand. And so as those tones shift, right, as you talked about, and as our voice develops as a brand, it's all about making our consumer, or that, follower, or that person, right, our target audience, as we like to call them, actually a hero in their own story. So thank you so much. This is so fun. But let's keep going. It looks like, Lizzie, you looked into how to discover your own personality. So will you tell us about this?
Yes, so finding your personality can be one of the toughest challenges in content creation. So how about instead of trying to find your personality, let's uncover what is already there. Have you ever felt like some people on social media are just so much more natural than you are? We've all been there, but it's not about finding your personality, it's about uncovering what is already there. It is so easy to fall into this false perception of the content creator mold. The idea that we have to be like the basic content creator, copying trends as soon as they come out and overthinking every post. This path will lead you down to constantly feeling like you were always one step behind. Personality isn't something you invent or copy and paste from another influencer. The creators you love did not get there by luck. They figured out which part of themselves to turn up. Ask yourself these questions. Giving passion to your content automatically ups the value of it because you care about what you are talking about. If you pick a topic you know a lot about, you won't have a problem coming up with ideas for content. Have fun with your content. If you're not enjoying creating content, it's likely your audience won't enjoy watching it. This video is a quick explanation of how to uncover your personality.
So again, step 1, find something that interests you, no matter how weird it is. Step 2, gain experience in it until you know slightly more about it than most people do. Step 3, when introducing yourself to people, talk about this thing. Step 4, there's no step 4. It's that easy. Fun.
Moral of the story, find what you are passionate about and talk about it. Here's a great example of having an on-camera personality.
There's a Cupid's ball from 7 to 10 p.m. in the MC ballroom.
I don't know why we're having like a little pagan dude's ball at this Christian university, but I don't make the rules.
The ball.
So instead of asking, what should I post? Start asking, what feels like me? For more information and reference to the sources in this video, check out our show notes and the attributions at the end of our podcast. For Stratasign, I'm Lizzie Turner. So this leads me to the question to ask you guys, what topics do you naturally get excited to talk about?
I know I really love like books, audiobooks, like I love following authors, and so like anything with like creative writing, literature, like I love that.
Totally.
I guess kind of similarly, I love music and musicals, so similarly to writing, I love the storytelling aspect, I love the emotions, and musicals combine the storytelling and the emotions and music into such a unique, fun way. I just love it.
I'm the same way. I love stories and helping people tell their stories, or just getting to know new people, new cultures, and getting to know their background, where they came from, why they're here. That's totally what I love talking about.
I love concerts and live music, so things like the Taylor Swift documentary. I love seeing all the behind the scenes. I think it's so fun.
Yeah, totally. So you guys could talk about this all day, right? Especially Taylor Swift, we've touched on a lot. So it's obviously topics that we can talk about for so long. So I want to ask you guys, how can we channel that passion into our content creation?
I can take that one. I feel like because music is such a big part of my personality, I feel like even just adding a song on one of my posts, like that is a way that I add my personality. I post a lot about concerts, kind of like a journal for my life, I guess. And I just think that that's fun, not necessarily in like a showy way of just like, this is all of the live people that I've seen, and they have their own stories and lives behind that. I think it's so fun. And then I also post a lot for my job social media. And so kind of putting my personality in there again with like the exclamation points, or like a song on a story. I had a friend the other day I posted, and I got home from work and they were like, "Did you post that today?" Because there's a couple different people that work on social media, and I was like, "Yeah, I totally did. How did you know?" And they were like, "Well, I knew that that's a song that you liked, and so I knew that that was probably you that posted that." And so I just think it's fun to add like even the tiniest things of your personality, something as small as a song on a post.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned how someone recognized you through something that you posted. That hits the mark of adding your passion into your creation of content.
Guys, this has been so fun to hear your own personalities come out and what you love to enjoy and consume. At the end of the day, though, what matters more, being authentic or being entertaining?
Again, I really love entertainment. I follow lots of comedians. And I think there's something to be said about like genuine entertainment, like our natural ability to like be entertaining. But I'd have to say I believe authenticity. And I say that because I've had moments in my life and like in posting on social media where I feel like I wasn't authentic. And I was on a social media panel recently with some coworkers, and it was amazing to like talk about with them that like all of us have kind of experienced these moments where we haven't been our genuine self. And like for me, it was one of my biggest regrets, and a lot of them felt the same, that like you almost regret if you aren't authentic on social media. Like you start to not feel like your own self and feel like people know you. And so I would have to say I think authenticity is really important.
I love that. I would agree. I think authenticity does matter more. But I do love that entertainment is like the fun aspect, and that's what grabs people's attentions first. So in the terms of content creation, you really do need both, because entertainment is the hook that grabs people's attention. So the things like expressive visuals, that strong voice, but if it doesn't feel like real or genuine, your viewers aren't going to stick around, which is the authenticity side. So it's really important to remember, like Lizzie said, don't copy other people. Use things like those facial expressions, the tone, the style. Use those to enhance your personality, not replace it. Because trust, like we've talked about, is the important thing that keeps people coming back.
I completely agree. I think that entertainment might get people there, but authenticity is what gets people to stay, because that's when you're, again, building that relationship with someone and helping them to see that you care and that you matter. I love, Sister Nelson, that you pointed out that our goal is to make our audience the hero. I think that I've learned, I did the capstone project this last semester, and I kind of did a little bit of work on the social media side, and I feel like I learned a lot through that about how we can connect with our audience and how we always need to put our audience first, which means that we need to understand ourselves so that we can convey who we are correctly to our audience, to connect with them on that deeper level so that they know that we care about them and that we're there for them because of who we are, not just who we represent.
Totally adding on to that. I agree with the authenticity thing. There's this social media influencer. Her name is Grace Evans. I'm sure some of you have seen her stuff. But she does a lot of videos on like de-influencing. And she'll basically just come on social media and say, "Hey, I don't have money to go eat out like a lot of social media influencers do every night," or "I can't go on a trip every weekend." And she'll just like basically just be super real and kind of X out all of those expectations that I think social media often presents as fake, of like, my life is so good, it's so awesome. And so I love that about her, and ultimately, you know, keeps me coming back to her videos, because it's like, oh, I'm feeling all these expectations from social media or expectations from just society in general. I want to go to her because she is someone that kind of strips all of that away and is like, oh, it's actually okay to not be okay, or it's okay that I'm not rich and successful, and all of those things. The authenticity truly draws a lot of people to her specifically.
Yes, totally. I think in terms of entertaining versus authentic, I think it depends on your audience partially. Like I said when I was little, I loved the YouTubers that were just purely entertainment. When I grew up, I realized that I really preferred authentic content. And so it kind of depends on your content. However, I think authentic is better because it works towards more audiences, right? But I also think they can work hand in hand. So as your personality starts to shine, you will naturally start being more entertaining, right? We all have friends who think we're entertaining because of our personality, right? And so as we start to be more comfortable with our personality, we'll start to shine more and be more entertaining, right? So therefore, attracting your audience as you start to get more comfortable.
Absolutely. Adam Mosery said this, and I feel like it relates to this conversation. He said, make something that only you can create. Ultimately, right, our personality, if we're genuine to that, we are entertaining in our own way, right? If we have those, what we talked about in the beginning, right, those moments of imperfection, that is now more entertaining to me than maybe a perfect hook, right? I have to get a hook, but sometimes now it's just me being myself, and that you hook me in, right? And then we become friends, as we've talked about a few times. So ultimately, thank you guys so much for this conversation. It's been so fun to get to know you guys more and your personalities. And thank you for joining us for this edition of Stratazine. Make sure to check out additional podcasts on digital and social media and on our YouTube channel.